Hello and welcome, Dr. Leila.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We're happy to have you here today.
With January just around the corner, I have been seeing a lot of vegans who are committed to anti-oppression and total liberation for all beings posting about Veganuary and using the hashtag Veganuary. So I wanted to break down why we really need to think critically about the organizations and campaigns that we support. So why not Veganuary? First, Veganuary is complicit in oppression. It partners with corporations like McDonald's and Burger King. These are companies that have been profiting from occupied territories in Palestine. So by partnering with these corporations, Veganuary helps normalize their exploitative practices. That's what we call vegan washing. Next, Veganuary endorses militarization. It even has ties to the British Armed Forces, which, as we know, have been complicit in the genocide of Palestinians. How can we fight for liberation and at the same time align with groups that perpetuate war and destruction? Last but not least, Veganuary reinforces Eurocentric capitalism. It pushes this white Eurocentric idea of success, which is rooted in capitalism, materialism, and exploitation. This completely undermines the fight for global justice and equity. We need to stop supporting campaigns that just keep the status quo. We need to ask ourselves, when did animals and their lives become a commodity to exploit?
Marhaba, Malcolm Rayan, and welcome to episode 3 of the Vegans for Palestine podcast. What you just heard was a reel created by Dr. Leila, who encourages vegans to think critically about Veganuary and exposes its relationships to capitalism, militarization, and the ongoing colonial project that is the State of Israel. Dr. Leila Dehgan is a plant-based nutritionist, activist, and personal trainer. Born in Tehran and raised in Vienna, she experienced life as an immigrant in Austria and the UK, which shaped her awareness of social injustices. After debilitating migraines led her to a whole food plant-based diet, she healed and shifted her career, earning a master's in clinical and public health nutrition from University College London. Now, it may not surprise you to learn that the reel you heard earlier actually went viral, and we here at the Vegans for Palestine podcast want to know more. You might think that Veganuary is a challenge that encourages non-vegans to become vegan, but as Dr. Leila highlights, there's a lot more to the story. In this episode, Dalal and Dr. Leila discuss how Veganuary works within oppressive structures of neocolonialism, capitalism, and alliances between Veganuary and proponents of the Gaza genocide. Dr. Leila emphasises the importance of vegans being literate when it comes to nutrition, and towards the end of their conversation, Dalal and Dr. Leila discuss the urgent need for alternatives and ultimately expose that there is in fact nothing vegan about Veganuary.
Veganuary, most of us believe that it is a campaign, a challenge, but it is not really a campaign. It's actually an organization. It's a UK non-profit organization. And I think that is something that most vegans don't really know. We assume it is just a challenge during January for people to go vegan for a month. And a lot of people actually, when you meet a lot of people, they say that they tried vegan for Veganuary, and then after that they carried on. So a lot of people actually start their vegan journey in January. And January is a perfect month because that is when most people are very motivated to change their lives and start fresh. It is this new year, new you. So it is the idea that, after Christmas, after you have been indulging in heavy meals and, bad habits, people actually kind of feel, because January is a new start, they can actually indulge in bad habits, bad eating patterns. So they feel like in January, they can reset, they can start new habits. And so Veganuary is actually, when I say Veganuary, I mean the organization, the organizers, they tap into that mindset. So they try people to try a vegan diet for January. And, even people who are not vegan, non-vegans, even people who are heavy meat eaters, everybody kind of knows that or believes that plant-based diets are healthier. So, kind of trying a healthier diet in January in form of plant-based diets, it seems like a good idea, right? It is an excellent marketing strategy. And, Veganuary has been around for 10, 11 years. And we have seen a lot of companies, cafes, restaurants, supermarkets, a lot of these corporations, they have taken up the idea. They offer Veganuary menus. They offer, a lot of products just in January for Veganuary. So you see the label on a lot of products actually when you go shopping. Now, the problem is, as I said, it is an organization. And about 5 years ago, fast food chains like McDonald's, Burger King, they actually jumped on the Veganuary bandwagon, okay? They started offering vegan options. But if you think about it, we are talking about McDonald's, Burger Kings. These are corporations that, offer a lot of meat products. I read somewhere that McDonald's alone uses about 2 billion pounds of beef per year. You need to kill 8 to 10 million cows to get that amount of beef. So, these corporations, they actually kill and abuse animals. And now they are exploiting the term Veganuary to sell even more burgers, because by kind of offering these vegan options, and everything is, of course, green color, they come across as being environmentally friendly. But it's really about money, capitalism, and consumerism. And you need to understand that these, Veganuary is actually actively collaborating with these industries. Veganuary is promoting these corporations on its website. So when you go to Veganuary's website, you see McDonald's, Burger King, Starbucks, all these companies that we're actually currently boycotting because of their complicity in the genocide. And so they are actually as unethical as they come. They are part of the capitalist oppressive system, which is responsible for so many of our today's, problems: climate destruction, mass animal slaughter, human rights abuses around the world, and of course, the genocide. So it's not really about veganism. It's not really about any vegan values of compassion, justice. It is just about, making profits, making more money. That's all it is. So there's nothing vegan about it. And I have used the hashtag Veganuary in the past. I used to encourage people to join Veganuary. But then last year, Dublin Veg Fest actually posted about Veganuary. And it was the first time that I heard that Veganuary is not as vegan as we like to believe it. So I looked into that. And this year I thought, what? People are going to start using the hashtag again. So let me post about it and raise awareness. Because, each time we actually use the hashtag Veganuary, we are also promoting the non-profit organization Veganuary. And with that, all the other corporations that Veganuary promotes. And also, if you go to the Veganuary's website and you look at the team members and the ambassadors, there are a few people who are Zionists. For example, we have Zionist vegans who are ambassadors of, Veganuary. And this year, the official sponsor of Veganuary is the Vegetarian Butcher, which is owned by Unilever. So, we are talking about, again, corporations and companies that support illegal settlements in Palestine. They test on animals. So, again, there's nothing about these companies. And Veganuary is actually collaborating with all these companies. So, as I said, there is nothing vegan about Veganuary. And each time we use the hashtag, we are promoting Veganuary. So we are actually promoting these capitalist oppressive systems.
And this is, I guess, why we're talking about Veganuary today. I'm sure you probably read it somewhere now that there is a new upcoming sister challenge in March that's called the V March, actually. It's going to be starting in March in China, hosted and organized by the China Vegan Society there. And basically it's the Veganuary, but happening in March because, people are busy celebrating the new year according to the lunar calendar. So March is spring. So it would be another challenge happening in March. With all these challenges and the trends happening across social media, we see how people maybe are diverting from what being vegan is all about, because ultimately becoming vegan is the journey itself. It's not the final destination. It's not counting 31 days over a month, and then when that is over, you don't really know how to continue with that. And what's really not vegan as well about it is how people simply fall into this consumer, let's say, practices and thinking, because all it matters is how to veganize this dish, how to cook this, where to get these items from, how do you plan your meals, post about this on social media, use these hashtags. So people are pretty much subscribed into this challenge where they need to show and prove they're following the Veganuary challenge. So they are viewed as the people who are following this vegan diet over the month of January. But then when that is over, then that's when people probably forget how to commit. And a lot of times people actually fall back into their normal life, let's say the normal diet they used to follow before. So I came across this statistics published by veganuary.com in their report after Veganuary is over. So they're claiming that, and I'm quoting, based on the results that they surveyed from the current population estimates for each country, Veganuary has calculated that roughly 25.8 million people worldwide chose to try vegan this January as part of Veganuary. That's a lot of people
Yes,
in
it is.
months.
But my problem with these numbers is,
Yes.
and you are right, every year Veganuary publishes actually these numbers of how many people have joined the movement. But then
Yeah.
I think there is no transparency. Where do they get these numbers from? I mean, are they counting people who signed up for the Veganuary challenge, or is it the number of people who visited the website? Because a lot of these people are going to be vegan. I actually signed up to Veganuary when I was already vegan. So I think a lot of these numbers actually make it seem like veganism is on the rise, but is it really? And I'm also thinking, like, is it just capitalism which is finding new ways to profit off veganism? By just making us believe that, oh, everything is okay, people are going vegan, we become complacent. We kind of stop trying. And also you mentioned all these different challenges, the V March, but also we have the No Meat May. There is always something happening, like, focusing on 1 month, or even the Meatless Monday. So there are a lot of these challenges around, and they have been around for many years. But this idea that you can actually turn on and off your compassion, I just think, what kind of idea is that? Either you are against the animal abuse or you are not. And what I really don't understand is that a lot of vegans, they keep saying, oh, we are actually about animals. Veganism is not about diet. But they push the diet aspect, don't they? I mean, I get why they do that, because food is one of the main obstacles which prevents people from, going vegan. But if you just focus on the diet alone, you are not going to change anything, because you have actually reduced veganism to a consumer choice. And capitalism loves that. That's why you get all these vegan products. And I mean, we could actually talk about all these plant-based options which are not healthy. And as far as I'm concerned, as a nutritionist, I'm actually concerned, because all these unhealthy options are going to cause health problems. So in a few years' time, we are going to see all these lifestyle diseases which are supposed to be kind of better on a plant-based diet. We are going to see vegans having all these lifestyle diseases because they are now buying all these processed plant-based options. So you see, I think we are actually not really helping animals, We are just maybe temporarily making ourselves feel better about what we are doing. But I don't think long term we are helping animals.
This is some sort of profit in return of human compassion. I mean, a few weeks earlier, we were seeing the hashtags about vegan Thanksgiving and then vegan Christmas. So this is not just a veganuary topic that we're discussing. I think it's deeper than that when we think that this is simply addressing the consumer and then selling these products to people, because yes, people can't really survive without the food. So you first introduce the meals to them, and then when you look up all these recipes online, you will find everything vegan. So people assume it's easy to do that, but then they would be directed to how to purchase things. When you go to supermarkets, you find all these shelves packed with vegan products from this company, from that company. This is meat, this is cheese, this is this, and that's a lot to take in. And oftentimes people don't necessarily do their own research to understand where these products come from and how they're made. So where is the nutritional health aspect in this regard? How do we really educate people on that, how they can eat vegan, not just in January, but also all year long, as long as they're being vegans for the right purposes? How do we educate people on that aspect? And at the same time, bearing in mind that people are diverse. We come from different countries. We have our own traditions, our own cultures, our own cuisine. So just rely on specific ingredients and specific staples wouldn't necessarily make us the only vegans because we just eat certain things. Tell me more about that. What do you think of that?
Well, I think, to be honest, if we want to change anything, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about the food system, the health system, or animal exploitation, we need to challenge the systems that have caused those problems. So we cannot just say, like, kind of, eat vegan, eat this product, and this is vegan, and you're going to help animals. We need to look deeper into the root cause of the problem. And the root cause is capitalism. So, and the same applies when we just look at food in general, healthy food. Capitalism likes to make money. It's really about money. So, and the only way to make money is by making us believe that certain foods are healthier or certain foods are better. And sadly, we have led to believe that Western diets are healthier and Western diets are meat heavy. So that is where everything, all the problems are starting. So if we want to get people to go vegan, we really need to educate them also on nutrition in general. And I think that is the problem. A lot of these vegans who say that, oh, I'm just vegan for the animals. As long as no animal is harmed, I don't care. That is not the right mindset, because what will happen is, and I have seen, I should really say that, I'm not going to name anybody, but I have seen activists, and I'm talking about animal rights activists, passionate animal rights activists, who had health issues. And the minute they get health issues on their vegan diet, they actually ask themselves, should I go back to eating meat? So they haven't really changed their mindset, have they? The mindset that actually we do not need animal-based products. And that's why I think, it goes deeper. We really need to challenge all the systems that have made us believe that we need certain nutrients, for example, protein, and that animals are the best source of those nutrients. So I think it is a bit complex, but it is only complex because the system wants us to believe it is complex. I believe actually nutrition is very simple. You just eat the foods that your ancestors have always eaten, legumes, lentils, pulses, whole grains, unprocessed, natural whole foods. That's what you should be eating.
And our cultures are rich with that. right? What the vegan movement and those activists failed to do is pretty much educate people about that you can simply dig deeper into your own culture, into your own cuisine, and find these staples in your own kitchen, in your own markets that you can simply buy, and they're pretty affordable. You don't have to spend money on buying specific items because this recipe requires this and that. I'm somebody who's living on budget. My approach to that on budget living is basically, it comes from me understanding that Palestinian food is really vegan friendly. And when you look at the way our ancestors lived, it was them cooking what they grew in their farms. Throughout the years, we saw how occupation and colonialism introduced to us the packaged food. So basically, they introduced the meat and introduced the fish and different kinds of meat in packages, in metal boxes, in metal cans, and they sell it to us. And then people started changing the way they eat because they have different options that are brought to them by colonizers. And on social media now, we see how if you're trying to commit to a certain vegan lifestyle, you have to follow a specific manner because these people are doing these things. So these are the examples you're leading by. And sadly, we see a lot of these activists and figures, the public figures that we probably know on a personal level. We see them pretty much copying, pasting the things the white vegans are doing. So there is a performative role here that we are forgetting about the essence of how veganism comes from culture, it comes from history, it comes from our connectedness to our land, to our traditions, and we just put all that on the side and try to portray an image that doesn't necessarily resonate with us. And that's why a lot of these vegans on social media, they really fail to connect with people like us. And I personally, I can't see a lot of examples that I would say, well, this resonates with me, or this person really is representing X culture, Y culture, because their cultures are rich with vegan food, and the vegan philosophy is there in their life. So why is there this cultural erasure, this lack of intersectionality in the vegan movement now?
You know, you were talking about how the colonizers actually came and tried to sell all these canned fish or other products. Before they could actually, or even today, before they can sell any products, they need to sell you the idea that their product is necessary. And we see that today with alt protein industry as well. And you mentioned that a lot of the Palestinian food, and the same applies to Iranian food, is already plant-based, and they don't need any meat. I see a lot of these Iranian vegans, they want to veganize Iranian food, Iranian meals, and they take away the meat and they want to, I don't know, add soy or some sort of, meat alternative. And I'm like, kind of, why? The dish has already legumes. That is a source of protein. You don't need to actually replace it with something else. But that's why I talk about, they have sold us the idea that meat is necessary. So a lot of Iranians, for example, what they do is when they remove the meat from a meal, even if they are not vegan and they are just vegetarian, what they do is they add mushroom or they add more onions. They feel like, something is missing. Some real nutritious food is missing, so they have to make up for it. So again, and that's why I believe, we need to start with decolonizing our minds, actually, to change our mindset. So when we are talking about all these influences, and sadly, if they are Western, white influences, obviously they are going to follow their own culture, which is a capitalist colonial culture. So they are going to follow that. But what I find really sad is that a lot of influencers from our countries, from the global south, they are falling for the same traps. They are actually, as you said, they are ignoring intersectionality. So they are also trying to sell this idea that we need all these alt protein kind of supplements and products. And so they forget their roots. But again, it is about, their thinking, their mindset. We need to change that. We need to challenge that. So I think the problem is a little bit deeper than, just educating others what nutrients they need and what they should be doing. It's about understanding the systems that have led us to eat the way we are eating at the moment. And it is a capitalist, colonial, oppressive system that has created this kind of meat industry, this processed food industry. And if we look at all these industries that I just mentioned, they exploit their workers. So there is, exploitation at every level. So it's not just exploiting animals, also exploiting humans, workers. So all of those are actually involved. But at the end of the day, we are just consumers, right? And that is what they want us to be, just consumers, so that they can sell us their products. And even influencers, if you think about it, they are trying to sell us a lifestyle that can, that where they can make money. So again, it goes back to challenging these systems, thinking critically about them. And yes, it is, I guess, if it was really about just eating a healthy, nutritious diet, then yes, you could just eat whole grains, legumes, seeds, nuts, fruits, and vegetables, and that would be it. But it is about these industries wanting to make profit.
Let's talk a little bit about the nutrition side of the diet, quote unquote. I mean, veganism is not just a diet, it's a lifestyle. But and this, I'll ask you the question that I get asked a lot, that where do you get your protein from? And but I don't want to ask you about just the protein. My question would be about how do we maintain a balanced vegan diet, let's say, or vegan food, vegan eating? Because it's funny, when people ask me this question about the protein, they only think of vegans as people who are deficient in their protein, because the protein only comes from animals, and um, they don't even ask themselves where they get their fibers from. And nobody cares about your food, your health, unless you introduce yourself as the vegan in the group. So from a health nutrition aspect, how do we balance our own eating? Because there is a lot of some really tasty, yummy vegan junk food out there. The labels are there on the food, the vegan trademark, the vegan friendly. I like to call it genocide friendly because it's pretty much complicit in what's happening in Palestine. So we'll talk about it later. But from your perspective, how do you see a balanced diet that's healthy, nutritious, fulfilling, and sustainable?
Well, I think, if we could do without processed foods, that would be great. As you say, junk food, most junk food is actually, even if they are vegan, they don't really offer any nutrients. And it's okay to enjoy them. I like a vegan cheesecake from time to time. But I guess the problem is that we don't realize how unhealthy we eat. And you mentioned actually something like, nobody really cares about their own diet until you say you are a vegan. Then everybody wants to know what you eat. And I think, we don't actually pay attention to what we are eating. What we are eating, most of us, is not healthy, and it's not really balanced as such. And when we go vegan, we have the opportunity actually to eat a healthier diet because we are already removing animal-based products from our plates. So that is our opportunity not to replace them with processed foods, but Unfortunately, we do that because it is convenient, it is available, it is tasty. And it also goes back to the fact that most of us don't really know how to cook. We have forgotten how to cook. That's why we rely on these, processed and packaged foods out there. So if we would go back to just cooking, and in a lot of cultures, actually cooking is a social event. People get together to cook together and to enjoy the food together. So it's community based, isn't it? So we have forgotten all of that. So that's why I feel like, we have to unpack so many different layers. There are so many things that we have unlearned, and we have to learn them again. We have to go back to our roots, or back to what our grandmoms, our grandparents used to do, So when it comes to a balanced, I don't even really like to call it balanced, because what is balanced for me is probably not the same as what is balanced for somebody else. So, and it also depends on whether, what the rest of your lifestyle looks like. But in general, if we just eat whole plant foods, that would be a balanced diet. But yes, as you said, all these vegan junk food is yummy, but when we realize that the root cause is all these companies, they have done research. They have done research how to put fat, sugar, salt, how to combine these three unhealthy ingredients so that they get the right combination to kind of create pleasure, or to trigger, to stimulate our pleasure centers in our brain. So again, it is just a capitalist system trying to find ways to make money. I know I keep repeating myself, but it is really as simple as that. Now, the question is, how do we want actually to fight that? How do we want to challenge it and get away from it? I think that is the real question. And what is happening right now is, with the genocide, sadly, with this live streamed genocide, we have started questioning all of that. We have noticed that a lot of these companies, Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger Kings, and you mentioned vegan friendly, all of these companies, brands, corporations, they are complicit in the genocide, in the killing of people. And that is when we, now that we have started questioning all of that, I think a lot of people are actually also questioning, is the way that we are eating, is it actually sustainable? And I'm not talking about just vegans now, even non-vegans. They have started questioning, like kind of going back to their roots. And I hear a lot of people talking about decolonizing their diets now. I recently saw a post on Instagram about decolonizing curry, and Indian was talking about that. So I feel like, now we are actually questioning a lot of things that we have been taking for granted, and we shouldn't. You mentioned again protein, for example. Why do we all believe that protein is the most important macronutrient? It is not. But the meat industry needed us to believe that protein is very important so that they could sell us animal food. So you see how it's all by design, and that's why education is so important, educating ourselves and asking questions and learning and reading. For me as a nutritionist, yes, fiber is very important, but one nutrient that I feel like, people need to worry, or, people should pay more attention to, is omega-3. But nobody actually thinks, nobody questions that, because, it is just because nobody's trying to sell fish, for example. Or I don't know. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that it is these capitalist systems, industries, and it is really by design. They want us to have these ideas, these distorted ideas about nutrition, because that's the only way they can sell us their products.
And that's how they keep the money flowing and keep the consumer more consumed into paying more, looking for more alternatives, buying this and buying that, and it's never stopping. And again, it's all about profit. It's all about keeping people basically consuming more. I really liked what you said about the part of the cooking, because it's easier now that people are getting themselves more and more busy with work, with studies, with lots of commitments, that they don't necessarily dedicate enough time to cook their own food, and thus be responsible for what they put on their own tables. And the issue that I see with the Veganuary challenge and the other challenges as well is that they just sell you a packaged meal. You don't have to worry about where to get this from, where to get that from. They give you all the list of the markets you can buy products from. They give you, try this recipe, try that recipe. They connect you through social media with creators. They sell you these ebooks to teach you things, but they fail to teach you that cooking is really how you connect with the food, and it's a celebratory social event, because back in the days the family would sit to eat together, but then they would have already made that meal and cooked together and had some really interesting conversations around the food. They could have fought, they could have smiled or laughed or gossiped about each other, but they had fun creating that food that they put together on their table to sit together to eat. And this is what is missing in this dialogue that we have today, when we find these simple, easy vegan recipes online, but nobody talks about culture here. Nobody talks about our traditions, our cuisine, how it really came into life. It came with our grandparents, with our ancestors, working together in the field, working together to put food on the table, and having these amazing stories that we are carrying throughout the generations. So food is our connection. It's the way we relate to each other. We share our history, but this is not there with the vegan friendly, genocide friendly labels, because it's simply a product. So there is a huge gap here, and that is what's missing. But people are not necessarily realizing that. And this is why we're talking about this today. And this is not just about Veganuary. This is, again, it's when people celebrate the vegan Thanksgiving, I mean, are people not thinking how Thanksgiving came into being an annual tradition that we will celebrate, or even the World Vegan Day, the festivals, the events that are carried and hosted and organized across the world? Do we necessarily need an alternative to Veganuary? Or how do we improve on Veganuary, on the vegan Thanksgiving, on the vegan this, vegan that?
Well, you said you touched on a lot of really good points. I'm gonna address one after the other one. Firstly, you said that nowadays we are busy. We are busy with work, studying, and this and that, and we don't have time for cooking, for example. And you have to think, cooking is such a basic activity. We need to eat, so we need to be able to cook. So that is where we again look at the whole system. The system wants you to be busy, because when you're busy and you cannot cook, then you need the products, right? So again, that's why I feel like we need a systemic change. And what a lot of these challenges, or even all these organizations that are focused on just one aspect, like the environmental aspect or animal rights aspect, what they are doing is they are just copying. Audre Lorde, how she says that you cannot use the master's tool to dismantle the master's house. But I believe a lot of these documentaries, yes, you are right, they actually just probably work in the West, because, they are actually speaking to the Western audience. But also these other challenges, these other organizations, they are just copying the same systems that they are trying to dismantle. But that is not going to really help us. That's not going to help the animals. That's not going to change anything. So, but going back to your question, how can we improve Veganuary? We cannot, because Veganuary is an organization. And, I always compare it to a meal that you are cooking. You are cooking, let's say, a soup or a stew, I don't know, you're cooking something, you're cooking a dish, and everything is going okay, but then suddenly you add a bit too much salt. You want to fix it, you add water, but then you see, no, the flavor is off. Now you add a little bit more of this, a little bit of that. You are trying everything to balance it out. But then, before you know it, you realize actually the food is burnt. There is no saving it. The best thing you can do is to throw it away and start from scratch. So I think Veganuary, yes, maybe when they started, they had the best intentions, to help people go plant-based and eat more vegan and go vegan. But at the moment, the way they have turned out is just an extension of the same capitalist consumerism that they want actually to dismantle, or they claim they want to dismantle. So there is no, we cannot improve Veganuary. We need to create our own campaigns. When we talk about the global South, and there are so many cultures in the global South, we have our own traditions which are free from genocide. It's not Thanksgiving. We have our own New Year's. So we need actually to build events or campaigns around our own traditions, involving our own plant-based traditions and meals and histories. We need to actually have our own stories, because that speaks to us, especially when we think about it, that the global South, when we say the global South, that is 80% of the world population. So if we want people to go vegan, if we want a vegan world, we cannot only focus on the 20% of the population in the West. So I think we have forgotten all of that. And sadly, maybe the West has better marketing strategies, or maybe they have the funds, but the vegan kind of community at the moment, the mainstream veganism is Eurocentric. All the materials that are coming out are focused on their, needs and requirements. So, and we try to translate that into our own languages, but that doesn't really speak to our people. It doesn't really, it only probably speaks to the elite, in our countries, and the elite already speaks English. They can they can read it in the original English version. They don't need the translation. So we really need to actually, start to critically examine all these campaigns and kind of really look at what could help our people, given that our history is full of oppression, full of internalized oppression. We need to really question all of that and consider our people, our religion. Religion does play a huge role in our countries. And there are so many other traditions, and we need to address all of them, include all of that in our messaging. And I think that is one of the biggest and problems that we are facing. And that's why, we are not really making any progress. And that number you mentioned, that Veganuary published, I don't believe that so many people really tried vegan diets. Maybe based on what products were sold. But again, what does that mean? Yes, products were sold. That doesn't really tell me how many animals were saved. So we really need to do a big rethinking of how we have done things. We cannot simply copy and paste. It doesn't work like that. And I think it is challenging, because all of us, even if we are not brought up in the West, all of us have been educated in the same colonial kind of system. And all the movies we watch, everything has that Eurocentric kind of mindset. So it is challenging for us to get away from all of that and create a new vegan community, to be honest. I think that is what we need, a new vegan community which understands intersectionality, which is rooted in anti-racism, anti-oppression, and also these single issue kind of movements, We cannot separate, animal rights from environmental rights and human rights. We need to address all of them at the same time. If we don't, we just see what we have been seeing. Like kind of, how can you be a vegan and pro-genocide? It just doesn't work. I mean, I really do not get that. I mean,
What is that?
I mean, we have seen how many animals they killed. All these. I just think like kind of, are you blind or don't you care for those animals? Because, I mean, do animals have nationalities? Is that what they believe? I really don't get it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. A lot of other vegans don't understand that.
This is what occupation is selling to the world when they show you these quote unquote cool IOF soldiers rescuing animals from Gaza that they are themselves bombarding and killing and ethnically cleansing. And they show you that they're the ones who are the most humane, the most vegan friendly, animal friendly. But that's the story they put out there. That's their own narrative. And what we're doing now is we're trying to challenge all of that, and that's why we sit together to talk today. I mean, I got to know you through the Vegans for Palestine, and it's an initiative that's uniting vegans for a free Palestine. And talking about veganism and being vegans have been the way for us to challenge the status quo and enable us to write our own narrative, to write our own stories. And these are the stories that are lacking in the media, are lacking on social media, are lacking amongst vegans themselves, because people have been simply subscribing to the things that they perceive from the digital platforms without criticizing, without thinking, without challenging or questioning. People don't necessarily think that, oh, this is a soldier and they're rescuing, oh, let's go fund them. But people don't think that these are the soldiers, the reason for these animals to suffer. And these animals were living peacefully with their Palestinian friends and without any issues. But then occupation doesn't really differentiate between the Palestinian or the animal or the environment in occupied Palestine. And the same goes to colonization and occupation in other countries. It doesn't really differentiate. It sees every sentient being as a target that they need to annihilate to prove something.
Yeah, and that takes me back again to Veganuary. Veganuary is complicit because Veganuary actually promotes the idea that Israel is a vegan-friendly, society. And that's what I mean with a lot of these vegan organizations. They actually, by, associating and collaborating with other organizations like Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger King, they are also complicit in Israel's vegan washing. So I think, we need really to question all of that. I think sometimes we vegans are so desperate for everybody else to go vegan that we just we are easy to prey. We just fall for anybody who promises us to kind of help more people to go vegan. We don't really question what their motive is, why they are doing that, and and again, I don't want to say that Veganuary started by wanting to kind of, I don't know, to kind of make money or profit. But I think we also forget that power and status, it corrupts. And I think that is what is happening with a lot of vegan organizations that, they start with good intentions, but down the line, once they have made themselves, once they have made a name for themselves and they have established themselves, and they do become corrupt. And yeah, so anyway, yeah, going back to Veganuary, I think it is complicit in the genocide because it is helping, it is promoting Israel's vegan washing. So yeah.
So by the time this episode is out, Veganuary would already be over, and but that doesn't mean that it's just about Veganuary. But then moving forward, what would you recommend as a vegan starter kit for people to, if they're interested in going vegan, and if they have already started this vegan challenge in January and they want to keep it along the coming months, hopefully years, because I would love to see more people going vegan, but then, just be educated enough for yourself to be able to get on this journey. But what do you think are some tips for vegans that they can start off with?
I believe veganism is about compassion and justice, but I really focus on compassion. And what I mean with that is that we need to be kind, we need to be compassionate, not just towards other, animals and humans, but also towards ourselves. And I think that that is where I would start, that people are kind to themselves. And if they start their journey from a point of kindness and compassion, then they are more likely to actually follow it and stick with it and make the right decisions. Because, when we talk about processed foods, uh, and if we kind of examine why we like these processed foods, these are comfort foods which we eat because life is difficult. So if they treat themselves with compassion and kindness, they would make better choices. And I really think, sometimes people who have a really unhealthy diet, it is just their way of coping with their lives. So again, I always feel like, yeah, my two mantras I say is be kind, be patient. And with that, you can achieve anything you want to achieve. So I believe, if somebody, hopefully, if they have already started eating more plant-based, they should keep it simple. Food is, they should enjoy it, but it doesn't need to be fancy. And we already talked a little bit about cooking. I think cooking does play a huge role, starting to enjoy actually food, enjoy cooking and engaging all their senses. Again, these are things that we have forgotten. You don't just eat because something tastes good. Also, you want it to look good. You want really to engage all your senses, taste, texture, color. And I just think we need to go back to all of that. We need to rethink the way we have been, and yes, rethink our relationship with food. So yeah, it depends on anyway. It depends on where they are on their journey. If they have just started, or if they are already vegan and they want to eat healthier. But I would really say keep it simple. You don't need all these fancy foods, these expensive organic foods. You don't need any of that. Food is simple, and it is usually healthy food is simple as well and very affordable. So all these expensive options, it is part of the capitalist consumerism, like kind of, they just want to sell products. And yes, and yeah, I don't want to go into the supplements, but there aren't a lot of supplements that we need anyway. The main one is just B12.
And if someone is concerned about their protein intake, compassion is your protein. That's the way for us to become morally and justice oriented humans who know what they're doing for the right purposes, for the right reasons, and people who are educated, connected with their cultures, with their history, with their traditions, and know how to share that and tell their stories with the world, with people around them. And knowledge is power.
Knowledge,
It's what keeps us alive. It's what keeps our history and our cultures, our own traditions alive. And I don't know, I wanted to add something. I wanted to add something.
I
I
think it's good. Knowledge is power. I like that actually a lot. Knowledge is power. Yes.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, there are definitely more things to talk about, and I'm more than happy to talk about them at another time with you, Dr. Leila. But I really enjoyed having this conversation, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. And I'm really grateful for your podcast. I think we need more podcasts like this, something which is really centering our stories rather than those coming from the West. So really grateful for you and what you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leila.
جفرة يا هالربيع والله الغربة مرة لو حلوها بالعسل ما بتحلى بالمرة مهما جمعنا من المال والذهب بالجرة بيضل تراب الوطن كحلي في عيني يا ظريف الطول وقفت أقولك رايح عالغربة وبلادك أحسن لك خايف يا ظريف تروح وتتملك وتعاشر الغير وتنساني أنا وين عرم الله وين عرم الله والفيا مسافر وين عرم الله ما تخاف من الله ما تخاف من الله سرقت قلبي ما تخاف من الله